Before we begin this chilling case, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoy true horror stories based on real events, or those that feel like they could be. Your support helps us uncover more terrifying forgotten tales like this one. In January 2002, 5 university students from Oregon went missing during a winter trip in the Cascade Mountains. They had rented a remote cabin for what was supposed to be a peaceful weekend getaway. But what search and rescue found days later was far from peaceful and far from explainable. The group, 2 women and 3 men, left Eugene on January 4th. They documented most of their trip via camcorder and Polaroids. Authorities later recovered the footage, but the last 45 minutes of the tape were corrupted except for haunting fragments of screams and incomprehensible whispers. The snowstorm hit harder than expected. A radio dispatcher received a panic call at 3:13 a.m. on January 6th from one of the group, Aaron Maddox. All that was recorded: "Something is digging outside. It knows we're inside. Please." Then silence. Search teams reached the cabin 2 days later. The front door was wide open. Inside, they found a half-frozen meal on the table, untouched. One of the chairs was overturned, and on the wall, scratched in what appeared to be soot and blood, were the words, "It was never the storm." Of the 5 students, only one body was found: Liam Porter. He was lying in the snow 80 meters from the cabin, barefoot, face twisted in terror. His tongue had been removed. No signs of animal predation. No signs of struggle. Only deep claw marks on the trees surrounding his corpse. The remaining 4 were never found. No footprints, no blood trail. Just one Polaroid image wedged beneath the cabin's floorboards, a photo of the group smiling. But behind them, barely visible through the frosted window, a tall shadowed figure stood watching. Locals had warned the students not to go past Black Hollow Trail. They spoke of old tales of hollow men said to haunt the forest, creatures born from isolation, feeding on fear and frost. The students laughed it off, calling it backwoods folklore in one of their last video entries. But the story didn't end with the disappearances. Over the next 5 years, hikers reported chilling phenomena in the same area: whispers beneath the snow, faint screaming in the wind, and dreams that continued for weeks after they returned home. In 2009, a private investigator named Dale Rinner reopened the case. He stayed 3 nights at the same cabin, armed with cameras and thermal sensors. On the 2nd night, all power was cut. The next morning, Dale's journal contained erratic handwriting. It crawled through the fireplace. Rinner was never seen again. The only trace left behind was a single boot hand inside it, human teeth not belonging to him. Authorities shut down the cabin in 2010, officially labeled hazardous. It was boarded up and access roads were buried under snow. But online forums, particularly one known as the Hollow Files, kept the legend alive. One user claimed to have snuck in during a dare. He never posted again. In 2013, hikers discovered a snow-covered camcorder 2 miles from the cabin. The footage was corrupted, but showed someone breathing heavily, running through trees. In one frame, a figure with elongated limbs could be seen moving unnaturally between the trunks, silent and stalking. Digital forensics extracted audio, a voice whispering, "Don't speak, it hears your name." The FBI briefly reopened the case, but no further evidence was released. Local rumor suggests agents who reviewed the tape resigned shortly after. The forest was eventually fenced off. Locals claimed snowfall near the site carried black flakes. One ranger quit after encountering a mound of snow breathing, rising and falling like lungs. When he returned with backup, the mound had collapsed, revealing a human spine beneath it. Many now believe the entity is a frost parasite, an old Arctic myth of a being that thrives on isolation and fear, often mimicking voices of loved ones to lure victims out into blizzards. Survivors describe hearing the voices of dead relatives urging them into the cold. In 2017, an ex-military survivalist named Cameron Slate attempted to disprove the legend by camping alone in the woods for a week. On day 4, his GPS began glitching. He started posting incoherent tweets. "Snow has eyes. Cold touches my lungs from inside. It's not weather." His last post read, "I'm not me anymore." Search parties only recovered his boots and a melted patch of ice beneath a tree. Despite temperatures being -12°F, the tree bark was peeled in a spiral, as if something had crawled upward without hands. Locals believe the spirit attached itself to isolation. The more forgotten someone feels, the stronger its presence becomes. Some say loneliness is its invitation. That's why the creature is sometimes called the cold witness, because it only appears when no one else is watching. In 2019, a therapist in Portland claimed one of her patients who grew up near the mountain was having recurring dreams of a woman made of snow whispering names into their ear. The patient later carved their own name into the mirror and vanished that same night. Her apartment showed no sign of forced entry, but her bed was filled with pine needles and the sheets soaked in what appeared to be melted ice. No footprints, no door opened, just a cold draft still lingering for days after. Paranormal investigator Naomi Briggs wrote an unpublished book titled Snowbound: Voices from the Hollow. She claimed the entity is sentient and it listens to every story told about it. That by retelling it, we invite it back into memory, that it wants to be remembered. In her draft's final chapter, she wrote, "If you feel colder than usual while reading this, if you feel watched, to stop. Close the book. Burn it, or it will come to know your name." Naomi disappeared 3 days after mailing the manuscript to a friend. It arrived half-burned. The only thing legible was a single page. "I think I said its name out loud. I think it heard me. Please don't say it again." No name was ever written. The cabin itself was torn down in 2020 after a forest fire passed through the region. Strangely, all trees were scorched except for a perfect circle where the cabin once stood. Not a single branch burned within the radius. The snow inside that circle remained untouched. A photo was taken by a park ranger. It showed 5 shadowy figures standing at the circle's edge. When enhanced, one figure matched the facial recognition of Liam Porter, the student who died in 2002. Since then, hikers who stray too far into that forest report seeing gaps in the snow like footprints that form and vanish. Some say they hear distant music, a music box playing a lullaby with no source. Others say they hear their own voices calling back to them. One hiker, now in psychiatric care, said, "The snow remembers me. It whispered my secrets. It knows I wanted to be alone. It gave me what I asked for." In a final twist, the original family that owned the land in 1901 documented in journals that something beneath the frost speaks when the wind is still. They left the land after 3 of their children vanished during a storm, leaving only frostbitten footprints in a circle. To this day, no formal connection has been made between the historic disappearances and the modern ones. Authorities maintain these are separate incidents, the result of severe weather and poor preparation. But too many signs point to something deeper. Colder, older, the snow still falls on Black Hollow Trail. Despite warning signs, adventurers, skeptics, and thrill seekers continue to disappear. Not all are reported. Some vanish quietly without legacy, without names exactly the way it prefers. If you're ever near that mountain, and the wind suddenly dies, if the air turns still and the cold becomes suffocating, don't speak. Don't think of anyone you miss. Don't say your name out loud. And most of all, don't listen to the whisper in the snow.